Okay. Gloria, one of the things that I wanted to say first off is thanks for letting me come. I've been a long time fan of Bridgerland. And my family lived in Nebraska. I was born in Colorado, and we lived in Nebraska, and my dad was a chemistry professor, and he came out to Utah to actually help write a chemistry book. And the lady ended up dying almost a month after we got here. And Bridgerland picked up my dad, and so my scenario with Bridgerland actually started clear in the 90s, okay, the early 90s. And so it's now 2013, so I've got probably 20 some odd years of playing with Bridgerland as part of my entire background. And so it's been kind of fun. We moved to Utah, and basically my dad started working for the custom fit department, which basically kind of helps businesses with training and special needs and special classes and on-site training and all that kind of stuff. And so we just kind of came here. I went to Skyview for the last couple of years. I went on an LDS mission to Portugal, and so I speak Portuguese. And then I came back and went to the university, and I started studying there. And as I was studying, I actually got a job here at Bridgerland, helping to teach some basic computer skills, Microsoft Word and Excel, and just simple little things. This is your computer, how you do file management. And so Bridgerland actually employed me partway as I was going through college. My degree was in information systems, which is kind of dealing with computers and technologies and all this kind of stuff. And so that's what my degree was. And one of the fun things that I like to tell people, if you will, is I got my degree up at USU, but I got my skills from Bridgerland. Like a lot of either the teaching or I had access to different manuals and books and other instructors. We did projects for Bridgerland. Like Bridgerland was awesome. Really helped me out a ton. But that's just a little bit about my background.
That's terrific. So how is it, did you always know that you were interested and had a real knack for computers and systems? And
not all the time. So because I'm not super old, but even my generation growing up, I did not even get exposed to computers until my junior year in high school. And so we had basic keyboard typing classes, and that was kind of the way things went. When we started, it was the black screen of death with the little green flashy, the Apple IIe's, and way back. So that's where computers started. And then about the mid-90s, kind of the web and the .com type boom came along, and so I was kind of riding on this, the front end had kind of gone past, but I'm kind of riding this little wave, if you will, just kind of riding just not right on the cutting edge, but just like where kind of the mainstream things are going. And so some of the stuff that we're doing now wasn't even possible when I was going to school and or even right into the college area.
Absolutely. So, yeah, it's amazing how things have changed so quickly. When we did our website a few years ago, there was no such thing as a mobile device. So
sure.
Yeah, it's amazing how things. So tell me a little bit about your journey from, you said in here that you were, you and your wife, that you were doing river trips.
Correct.
Your journey from that to this company that you're now a part of.
Okay,
tell us a little bit about
awesome. Well, just to kind of start with, in college, every summer I went up to Alaska, and I was a river guide, running whitewater rivers and just taking people down the river and having tons of fun. And then I was a snowboard instructor in the wintertime, so I'm kind of a outdoors kind of nut, if you will. And so what happened was, as soon as I graduated from college, which was in 2000, up at the university, I graduated, like I said, in information systems, but I was like, ooh, I do not want to go right into a cubicle type environment or whatever. So I looked online, and I found a company that did kayak instruction and raft guiding and rock climbing, and I was like, ooh, sign me up. And so I headed out to this little place called Salida, Colorado. Literally, if you look at the state of Colorado and you point right to the smack dab middle, there's a little small town called Salida. And actually the name of our company is actually Adilas, which is Salida spelled backwards. It's just kind of like a little acronym. So the summer went on, we were having a good time, and all of a sudden I wasn't able to make enough money to support my wife and a small child. A raft guide salary is basically you sit in the back of your pickup truck, and it's pretty much a single salary type
Sure.
thing. End of the year came, and I was like, man, I need to do something. So I got a job working for a used car dealership. They needed some help doing some data entry, and then they said that they would love a website. They didn't even have a website or anything. They had multiple locations around the state of Colorado, and what they were doing is they were tracking their inventories on spreadsheets. And so one of the things that was kind of interesting is when I came there, they had this, one guy was kind of good enough that he could set up some spreadsheets. Then they would pass a disk from store to store to store to store. You're talking like hundreds of miles apart, like all across the state of Colorado. And so Montrose and Canyon City and like all over. So it took about 2 weeks for that disk to kind of make its little path around. And I got on there and they were like, can you help us with our website? And I was like, okay, well, what do we have to sell? Well, here's what our current inventory is, but it's kind of not very fresh because it's doing that little cycle. So we ended up kind of taking that file and we're like, well, heck, why don't we just put it up online? And then we'll centralize that data, and then as we update it, you guys can just pull a digital copy down so you don't have to do the mailing thing, because that was kind of chasing your tail a little bit. So then what we did is once we put it up there, we put a little date next to it that says, hey, last modified such and such. And so people started knowing a little bit quicker information. Then as we got into it, I'm building the website for them. I would say, okay, this Ford F-150 pickup truck, do we still have it? And they'd be, oh, we just sold that 2 days ago. But I was already kind of prepping and doing work. And so we had there was a communication gap, a problem that was like a communication thing. And so what I did, and this is kind of where Bridgerland actually plays in, is my dad had contacts with people who were teaching some custom classes through his custom fit department. And he's like, hey, I've got John up here and he's going to be doing a class on cold fusion, which is basically connecting databases and web pages and creating a web application. And I was like, sweet, we'll schedule our vacation. Like, I left Colorado on purpose to come back to take a class at Bridgerland, because the problem was we couldn't keep up with the inventory. Things were changing so fast. So I came back, took a 2-week course here at Bridgerland. I was probably the slacker of the whole class. I had done a little bit of web stuff, but they kind of wanted me to be in more of a development environment where you were actually writing and coding and stuff, and I was pretty much a point and click person prior to that. It's called a WYSIWYG. It's an acronym for what you see is what you get. It's kind of lay out a table, cool, put a graphic here, put a link, and all of a sudden the instructor's like, okay, I want you to do this. And I kind of had a little minor freak out session, but so we did this little 2-week course, and I went back and I built a little small application for the car dealership so that they could have users, locations, and track their big ticket items, the new trailers, the SUVs, the vans, the toppers, like the camper things. So we had this simple little piece of the puzzle. Basically at that point, the class at Bridgerland springboarded me to the point where we got this teeny little thing done. It probably had, I'm going to say 20 pages. So you could stock something in, you could tie it to a make and model, and then if somebody sold it, it automatically would mark it sold and you could record a sale price. Really simple inventory tracking. So we took the spreadsheets and the disks and we started using a small little web application to kind of start tracking those different little pieces. And then when that happened, I was like, wow, this is awesome. I think I'm going to do this professionally. And so I severed my ties with the auto dealership, if you will, and basically said, I'd continue to work on your product, but I'll be a subcontractor for you. And I'm going to go over here and start learning this and this. And we started learning a bunch of other things. And I had another person that employed me, and we did a bunch of what's called some Flash applications. And Flash is like interactive motions and comics and graphics and some fun stuff like that. And then Bridgerland played into my life again. Bridgerland decided that they wanted to do a fun little an interactive app. At the time, it was actually done on a mini CD, because apps and mobile devices and tablets and smartphones, they didn't even exist. And so we created this teeny little disc, if you will, and it promoted Bridgerland, all of their 20 or 30 different departments, whether it was culinary or meat cutting or cosmetology and police and firefighter and EMS and all these different little fun things that Bridgerland did. And so we created a thing in a Flash environment, which I'd love to show you at some point. It would be kind of fun to do that. But that actually gave me new skills. And so Bridgerland actually, from Colorado, hired me. I came back on my vacation. I had family here. we figured the whole thing out. There was a team of about 6 of us. We created this awesome little application, and by the time you're done with it, they ended up pushing about 20,000 of those teeny little discs out the door just as like little promo things. And so kind of a fun little piece. Well, what that did was that gave me new skills in Flash, and then we started combining Flash and Cold Fusion, which was the server-side database thing, and then it started just going and going and going and going. So there was a number of times that Bridgerland has actually played into my story and or even where I've been at. Bridgerland is an asset in my toolbox. I love it. It's awesome. It's awesome.